What's going on, people? Welcome to Live Palace News. I'm joined by the main man, T. As always, please hit the like button, subscribe, get involved in the show. As you can see from the title, we've got Eze chat. Eze. Parish has been speaking about Eze, and finally, we've got another update on Eze's future today. As you can see from the title, Crystal Palace may be willing to sell for less than his release clause. We'll be debating what is Eze's price. Why would be willing to spend maybe, not willing, maybe potentially. I'll bring out the article. We're going to talk about the article anyways. Why could that be a possibility anyways if he was to go for less than his release clause and more? Make sure to get involved. I know people will have already sent in the comments. Also, yeah, I was joined by Patrick yesterday, T, and we spoke about the loan roundup as well as a few other news. How does it feel, though? I asked Patrick the same question. How does it feel talking about Palace after the window shut whilst we are in the international break? I'll be honest, this international break technically is meant to be the quietest one, I think, throughout the season. I don't think we'll have a quieter one than this one because the window shut. Like, it's literally right after the window shuts as well.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel?
I mean, it's I think the thing that I'm happy the most about is there are going to be guys that are getting rest and recovery that really, really need it. I think that's probably the thing about the international break that I'm the most happy for right now. Usually when international breaks come around, sometimes I'm a little bit upset because I'd rather be watching my club than watching the countries play right now. But the fact that somebody like Wharton's getting the rest and hopefully after this break, you'll see somebody like França get back into the swing of things, back into the fold of training. Not to mention getting a chance to see all the new guys bed themselves in and get a chance. So it's a really good time for our team, and it makes you kind of antsy and anxious to see them play though.
Yeah. There's a few plays. The players resting, as I mentioned yesterday. New players training, so I think it's a good time. I think the Leicester game is going to come at a good time for us. It should do. No more excuses. We've had the start of the season where it's a bit too slow, but we're going to be getting back into it. And let's actually go into that report. As I said, I said maybe, and then I said willing as well. Let's see what the actual report suggests. This is coming from Sammy Mockbell from the Daily Mail, who's been reporting a lot of Palace stuff whilst the window was open, saying that Ebere Eze's expired release clause worth £68 million will reactivate next year. Crystal Palace may be willing to negotiate below his release clause. That's the key element to it. I'm not surprised about the release clause activating next year. But, T, why would Palace be willing to negotiate below his release clause?
Only reason I can think of is by the time that happens, he'll be 28 years old. And
no,
maybe
next
something. Yeah. So next year, he turns 28. I think he'll be 28 next year. I thought.
Is it not 26 right now? He'll be 28 when his contract expires.
28 when the contract expires. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe the thing is, I think they said willing to negotiate below it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll go below it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just news. Maybe it's just hearsay. Maybe there's a level of truth to it. I don't know. Maybe it's something that is in fairness to Ebbs, and trying to do right by him and see how to move for him.
But
you
then,
know what I mean? So
I mean, there's different points. It could be different points. But then, if that is the case, when we spoke about, this is a business at the end of the day, would you be happy with negotiating below his release clause next summer if that meant more clubs would be after him? Because Parish, I spoke about this with Sky Sports, and he did say,
I guess it depends on what that looks like. You know what I mean? Like negotiating below it could look like 55 to 60 million, or negotiating below it could look like 40 to 45. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a difference. So I wouldn't want to see us doing any negotiating far below it. And he'll be 27. Excuse me. He'll be turning 27 next summer.
Should I be honest? I know you said this could be hearsay, just any other news story, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think there are some very valid points there that have come to my head. He's going to only have 2 years left in his contract. So, I mean, next year. So, yes, he could have the release because only 2 years left in his contract. So, what happens if he doesn't want to extend it? I told Palace after when I'm 28, I don't want to be at Palace. So, if no clubs are willing to pay around the 68 million pound release clause next summer, and then he runs with a year left on his deal, which no one's going to pay that much, £68 million with a year left on his deal, then I think there is a bit of truthfulness behind it. There could be. Well, potentially. Like, I'm not denying that by any means. I think this story makes a lot of sense, which will shock a lot of people, but I think it makes a lot of sense for different reasons. It's going to be, of course, I think the 2 years in his contract is the biggest part. Age as well. He'll be 27 next year, which of course is not old, but he'll be in his peak in terms of market value to get the most out of him. So there onwards, it's going to be unrealistic to expect to get maybe the release clause or more when he's 28, or if you sign a new contract to 29.
Yeah, like you said, he's in the prime, won that move.
I think there's valid reason why Palace might be interested doing this. And even yesterday, when Steve Parish was talking, he was kind of shocked that no big club came after him. And another point, based on that as well, that I forgot to mention, is that he might be one of the sales. Do we need to sell Eze to fund potentially the next transfer window? We saw the Lisa and Anderson this one, and Steve Parish did say in the Sky Sports interview he was surprised about Anderson going because he thought it might be Gahey, which of course if Gahey was to go, it would be at a higher price. Could it just be a case of if no one wants to pay the £68 million, we might take a bit of a hit, as you said, around £50-55 million, and we'll take that money. So I think honestly, I do think, if you're asking for my honest opinion, I do think there could be some truth behind this. There could be for the two reasons I listed: contract and also for player sales next summer. Because Gahey could be potentially gone, but do we need to sell one? Do we need to sell two? I think Gahey will be gone. I'll be surprised if he stays further than next summer. But yeah, how are the chat feeling about this? And Guy said, I think this is a non-story, just attempting to read between the lines of Parish interview. QPR get 20% of what we sell for. Parish interview has been gold. Kyle saying a lot depends on the season. If he has big year, then the release clause probably gets triggered anyway. Yeah, I guess that's another part as well, ain't it? T. It depends on what
if he has a really, really good year and his value gets bumped up a lot, if you start seeing his value being up around 80 million, they're like, okay, well, he's an 80 million pound player, but we can get him for 68. Let's just go ahead and activate his clause. So there's definitely a lot of credibility to that too. If he comes in, he's playing really well this
year. Yeah. Poppy saying Parish needs to pipe down a little. Preferred when we kept our cards closer and just quietly ticking over. So yeah, I mean, he's been talking quite a bit. I don't know if you've seen the interview. He did mention.
Yeah, I did.
He spoke about Eze as well. First of all, before we talk about the interview and your thoughts on it, and also the chat, were you surprised about the lack of interest from Eze this summer?
Yes and no. Surprised more by the fact that there wasn't more international interest in him. That actually surprised me. I think the thing that didn't surprise me is that a lot of the Premier League teams weren't willing to pay the money. And that's for one reason or another, fit, things like that. I mean, you see all of what they were talking about with Liverpool having interest in them, and then Liverpool does almost nothing in the window and then spends 14 million on Chelsea, makes a budget signing, so it just seemed like people didn't want to break the bank on an attacking mid, which it's just, it is what it is. So
yeah. I'll be honest, I never really felt under threat of losing Eze when you have clubs like Spurs after him. They're not serious.
No, like Spurs never felt real to me. Man City never truly felt too real to me. Like I said, I think my surprise was that you didn't see any teams from any other places outside of England possibly taking some interest in him.
Yeah, Warren saying if it's like Michael's release clause, which I think is a very good point as well, we probably wanted most of Eze's clause up front, so large sum of money isn't it, especially with PSR clause, etc. So yeah, that's not really viable for a lot of football clubs, but I think that's a smart bit of business from Palace that we put in this release clause, but it's not even just the business side of things. I think it's just making logical sense. Like you want that money in your pockets because you have to replace these players, and as I've said, you want to make it as uncomfortable as possible for some of these clubs after our star players. So I think that's one element to it. Like if you're so serious about having Eze or Elise, which was in Bayern Munich's case, then pay large chunks of it up front, and a lot
Hmm.
of clubs might be put off that, which shows how serious they are about
Yeah.
having a player like Eze at the football club. So yeah, it all depends. It all depends on the situation. And I'm saying I think the only viable contenders for a signing were City. We should be adding to our stars, not selling them. The thing is, we're gonna have to sell to buy Twisted. So I think it's
And I feel
frozen.
like we have added to
Come
our
on.
stars too. You know what I mean? We've added guys. I mean, when you think about adding somebody like Adam Wharton, and now in this window adding guys like Maxence Lacroix, um, young guys like Riyadh, um, somebody like Eddie Nketiah who could potentially blow up and become amazing with the amount of talent, ability, and hopefully the chance to play with him. You know, moves like França were supposed to be future star moves. So it's not like we're not doing those things. So, but at some point, you know, you can't just uh, stockpile all these potential stars and not have to uh, do something with them.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, people, if you do have any questions, put a Q and a dot before it, and we will answer it towards the end of the show. And if you're just joining us now, haven't already done so, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel and don't want to miss out on future Palace content, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you're notified whenever we go live, which is most days, despite being international break. We've gone live yesterday and today as well. So, whenever there's something that's going on with Palace, we're here to update you as well as the usual Palace content. Mitch saying Parish knows when to talk and when not to. He's not speaking without purpose. So, what is that purpose? Let's move on to that. How do we
Mhm.
feel about Parish speaking to the media openly about some of our players and not some of them not being sold, and with Gahey about moving on our players to ambitious football clubs or Champions League clubs, which is not where we're at. Like, how are we feeling about all of this? Is it necessary? So, what is the purpose then, to you, do you think, about Paris talking to the media?
I mean, I did feel like he showed a lot of ambition with some of the things he was saying. You know, us wanting to be us. Our aim is to be a Champions League club. You know, but in saying that, also making the admission that we aren't there right now, and that you have you do your best and you bring in these talented players, but you also do it with the understanding that at some point in their career they're going to want to play at the highest level, and that's what you want from your players. You know,
Yeah,
and that comes at a price. You know, and I think part of it is he understands that what we're building towards. And what we're building towards in the greater good, it's still a process, and we're still undergoing that process. And in getting to that point, you're going to see some great players come through the team, some unbelievable talents that will play for us and take us steps ahead. But we'll also have to leave in that process. You know what I mean? So um, I don't. I mean, I know a lot. The thing is, naturally, when somebody of Parish's stature goes and does an interview, um, you know, there's going to be so much that's made out of it. There's going to be so many ways that words are going to be taken and interpreted and hashed out amongst the media, the fan base, or anyone that puts ears and eyes to the interview. So, um, honestly, I'm actually happy that he was, you know, honest about things. I liked to hear, like I said, about his ambitions to say, you know, our goal is to be in the Champions League, and that's what we're building towards right now. Like that says a whole lot from what we have come from as a club um, a decade or less ago. So
I don't understand this point, not Kyle's point. Kyle's saying I appreciate the honesty from him. I think it lines up the moves made the last two windows. I don't understand this point from Mitch saying to start with, he's talking up the value of our players, saying other clubs missed a bargain with his release clause. If you really don't want to sell these players, you don't really talk about, oh, you missed out on a bargain with the release clause. So based on that logic, then is it a case of him?
did he use the term bargain?
Well, I don't think Mitch is saying that you use the term bargain. He's basically implying that, he's surprised that
He's surprised. I think he's surprised that a super talented guy like Eze didn't have more teams knocking on their door.
But then why do you talk? But why would you put that out there? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Why is that necessary? Why would you want to talk about? He's surprised about Eze not going or the gay situation.
Not going. He's not. He's
he was surprised. That's why I don't understand. So
he didn't say that he was surprised that Eze didn't leave. He was saying that with how good Ebere Eze is.
Why, T? This is my point. It doesn't matter. Why are you there?
Why should you not speak about how great your players are?
All right, you explain. What other owner does this?
What owner is going to talk great about their players?
No, but what other owner? I mean, they're not. He didn't have to do this interview. He done a Sky Sports interview when Gahey was linked as well away from the football club.
But what is wrong about? And I don't understand what's wrong about an owner. I don't understand what's wrong about an owner talking about how great their player is and being surprised that other teams. What is it about? I don't understand. What is it about?
He spoke whilst the Newcastle saga was going on, which he didn't have to do. Fair enough. And now that the window's closed. I mean, the question is, what other owner really does this about their players that speaks about them? Ideally, you want to keep everything under wraps. You don't want to talk about Eze. You don't want to say, oh, look, we're surprised about Eze not going. And like, what's the purpose of this? You're just bringing more light to the situation about his release clause, about Gahey and stuff. Like, it's died down. The window's closed. Like, Newcastle fans are pissed off because they lost out, which is hilarious. But it's like, there's no point talking about it. It's done. I mean, as much as he's a fan, he's going to Sky Sports quite a few times, booking appointments. He's like Sky Sports every other 2 weeks.
Well, here's the thing: do you think Steve Parish goes to them, or do you think they reach out to Steve Parish?
What was that?
I said, do you think Steve Parish reaches out to the media outlets, or do you think it works the other way around?
I think they reach out. I don't think Steve Parish reaches out, but then
if they reach out, there's a purpose.
Sure the media outlets reach out to other owners as well, and then I don't really see other owners of football clubs coming out and speaking out as much as Steve Parish, because there's no benefit to it. If Steve Parish really wanted to speak to Palace fans, he's got Palace TV platform. So that's my purpose. Why are you talking to the whole country? Like, I don't understand the purpose around that. Like, we know how good Eze is. We know about his release clause. We know about Gahey. We know what happened. I don't personally understand the need to keep talking about the situation, about Gahey, for example. I don't understand that when he stayed at the football club. For me, there's no purpose. I just don't understand it.
I'm kind of along the lines of what Kyle says here. He's getting exposure. Like, the thing is, there's no such thing as bad PR.
That's what I'm saying. So he's just thinking about himself. Like, what was
No. I said exposure for his players is not for himself. Exposure for your players is exposure for your club. Exposure for, like, there's no such thing as bad public relations. In public relations, no such thing as bad PR.
So he's just getting exposure, but then it's not like we're League Two side.
No, but we are a small Premier League.
But he has become this voice, though. I remember a lot of people were frustrated when things were hitting the fan, and they were saying, don't talk to the papers, don't talk and discuss about, the general European football and this and that, whatever. I did see a few comments like that. Not that I agree or disagree. I'm just saying that there have been some people frustrated with the situation. But for me, I just don't understand this. Maybe he's got a bit of time now because the window's closed.
But see, the thing is, and I
don't really understand.
This is the thing that really gets me, though, D, because it's almost a catch-22 in certain ways, because you then have the section of our fan base when things are going on and he's not talking about it. They get pissed off because he's not talking about it.
Yeah, but then, that
he needs to come out. He needs to say something. He needs to say, like, No,
but that makes sense, though. That makes sense. People would get pissed off if he doesn't talk about certain things that even went on last year, that when the owners were called out and we didn't really hear much from them. And then he wants to talk about when it comes to owners. I think people have a right to be pissed off in them kind of situations. When we're talking about, like, this is pointless. Like, Parish doesn't have to come out and speak about this. Not that unbothered. The question is there. Why? Like, I don't think there's any benefit. We're not a League Two side. We're a Premier League club. I get the exposure side of things, but I don't see many owners talking about Eze's release clause or Gay not being sold and this and that, whatever. So yeah. It's just confusing. It's just confusing. Mitch saying, imagine for a second if Parish said the opposite or nobody was ever going to come in that release clause price. That would be nuts, saying our play is good and valuable is expected. Or just imagine see Parish not talking and we won't be talking about this today. That's my point. That's my point. Twister saying he wants offers in January. Adam was saying, yeah, I reckon Parish does want to sell for the right price. So you don't think that, see, you don't think about maybe that as we might be open to selling him next year for the right price?
I think everybody has a price. I think everybody has
his price is there, but do you think that, you know, the initial report about potentially sort of lower than a release clause, do you think that could be a possibility? Now that we spoke about this at the start, you did say kind of no. Is your stance still the same, or do you think there's maybe a bigger chance?
No, I mean, I think it's a legitimate chance that you could see him get sold for less than that release clause. I mean, that's honest. Now, what I don't think is that you'll see him get sold for substantially less. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a $68 million release pound release clause, I wouldn't expect him to see him go for like 40 or 45 is what I was saying. You know, I could see him maybe going for like 55 to 60, which isn't the full amount of the release clause, but it's still a hefty amount in itself for what at the time would be a 28-year-old attacking midfield. You know, because you think about it, it's like, well, we sold Elise for 50, and he stands to be what, 5 years younger at the time of being sold. When you have a guy like Eze who you think can move on for the same amount at 5 years, the senior of a guy like Elise when he went, you know. So yeah, not meeting that release clause, but still getting a substantial amount of money and return on investment for a player.
Yeah. Top. How do you even say it? Top
opinion?
Opinion? Yeah, opinion. The problem is that he constantly reiterates the idea that CPFC are some sort of stepping stone club. It would be okay if he was talking up our ambitions rather than surprised as they didn't leave. No, look, with that, to be fair to him, he does talk about our ambitions. He does talk about the stand. He did talk about, you know, one day we want to be that Champions League club, but realistically, right now, that's not the case. And that's why these players are getting the interest, or they do want to move to a bigger club. So he has mentioned about the ambitions, etc. But yeah, the question is, I mean, yeah, the question is why. Gaika saying, didn't Parish also say in the interview that it would be disastrous if you saw Eze and Elise in the same window? I'm paraphrasing. Yeah, I mean, he also
made allusion to that same thing between Gahey and Anderson too.
Yeah. Jimmy's saying if we kept our players and built a 40k seater stadium, we would fill it. Elise is £100 million player, as it isn't, says Animal. But yeah, and I think Mitch is right. Every club except for half a dozen or so are stepping stone clubs to somebody. Even if you play for the likes of Arsenal.
Yeah, there are a few teams that don't have somebody above them that aren't at the top of the food.
I don't know if there's actually a few. I think there's only I think it's very, very minimal about teams that don't have many teams above them. I think Real Madrid,
literally like on Real one Madrid hand type of thing.
I don't even know. Like, would you count Bayern Munich as that club? Because for me, you can't go beyond Real Madrid.
I think Bayern's probably up there. Real Madrid's kind of up there. Barcelona has slid down a little bit as of late, but even still, you got guys at Barcelona with absurd buy clauses that you could never touch if you wanted to. You know what I mean? Even still, so, but there's still those clubs that are, you know, the pie in the sky, or the teams that can trump others. I guess it just depends on the certain situations.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't need to talk about Eze's release clause. It just means that unlikely to get in now unless it's multiple clubs interested, and could be setting ourselves up for offers like Newcastle for Mark Gahey. Animal saying we are a stepping stone club. We have to face a reality. Most fans think we should be bottom half of the table forevermore. We know we're capable of better than that, but it isn't a quick thing. We need to uh, sell, and slowly improve the team as a whole. And we started that this
And
summer.
I feel like we've been doing
Started,
that. You know,
yeah,
when you over the past 3 or 4 years, when you've added guys like Eze and Gehi and Decore and Wharton and França and now Lacroix and Riyadh and and Nketiah, you're adding extremely talented players. It's just over a period of time. You know what I mean? And so we're definitely showing all those long term steps. And you know, in a situation, you got your owner talking about the fact that we have ambitions of making that jump into Europe and playing at the highest level, but also speaking into the reality of the fact that right now today we're not a European club. And that's just the truth of it. And we have players that are extremely talented, that are good enough to be playing those competitions, that at some point during their career are more than likely going to want to.
yeah,
So then at that point, you have to make a decision. Do you stand in their way, or do you let them have the ambition that they have as players?
yeah. If you haven't already done so, people, by the way, if you can hit the like button, that would be great. We're very close to 50 likes. I know a lot of you watch on replay as well. So if you're enjoying the stream and can hit the likes, that would be much appreciated. 50, maybe 60 likes. Let's see what we can hit. Let's go through some of the questions. I think this would be an interesting discussion. But let's go through some of the questions. And we'll start off with Warren's question. By the way, you can also get involved by putting a Q and a dot before your question, and we will answer them before we do wrap up the show. Warren is saying, I also think França was brought in as the long-term replacement for Ebbs. Don't you think potentially? Yeah, but França needs to prove himself before we even have serious discussions about this.
And I think that in an ideal world, all things go according to plan. França is playing well, and he is in that seat to take over for Eze when Eze moves on. The problem is he's had problems with injury, and like you said, he hasn't had that chance to prove himself yet. So unfortunately, your ready-made replacement that you put the money into a few years ago isn't necessarily ready to step right into it like you would have thought years ago. It's like, hey, by year three, França should be ready to go ahead and take over for Eze when he leaves, but that's not the case, unfortunately.
Yeah. Guy is saying, who's going to be the next star to leave? Oh, this is a hard one. Well, we got Wharton, we got Gehi, we got Eze. Who else have we got in terms of star? Would you say
Mateta?
Would you say he's a star?
Mateta?
Is he a star?
I would say so. I mean, Mateta right now stands to get you 40 million plus. So, I mean, that's pretty significant.
I guess so. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Decore
could be in there. Yeah.
I mean, he had a lot of hype before.
And I mean, and don't forget Decore signed an extension, so he's with us for a while longer now.
Till 2029, same
2029. So if somebody does come for him, they got to be willing to pay that money. So we got a lot of guys.
Who do you see? Do you see Gay being that player after the saga this summer, and next year, if he doesn't sign in release clause, he'll be going for cheaper, of course.
I mean, I guess it's funny. It's funny because we sat here and talked about, who we thought would be the most likely last year, and then boom, it's Michael that leaves. But I think it's probably between Eze and Gehi, but my dark horse would be Mateta.
Yeah. For me, I think Gehi right now makes sense, but I think the dark horse being Mateta is also very good as well. It's very good. Let's see how Nketiah performs, anyways. Decore, I love Chake. Is he a star? Gaslighting? No, Patrick. Here we go. Is
he a star? Is he talking about Mateta?
It's like if he hears the word Mateta, he just comes out like, what? Like you said.
I'm just making the inference that, like, as things stand right now, You move on a guy like JP, and you're probably getting between 30 and 40 plus million for him.
That's
Like,
for now. Let's see how he performs this season.
yeah,
If he
yeah,
continues at the same level, of course.
yeah,
And he's got well, the contract situation shouldn't be a problem anyways. But yeah, I think Gay, and then the other player could be potentially Mateta, depending on how everything goes. Warren saying, what was the context? Was it talking about Parish players just being called up to England, or just Parish loving some PR? In terms of his interview, I saw clips from Sky Sports. I don't know exactly the context behind it. I mean, even if his players being called up to England,
yeah. I would. I mean,
England. We
if
had Gay playing. There's no reason to go to Sky Sports to talk about Mark Gay playing for England or Dean Henderson being called up. Gay was the star of England. Like, it's not something new. Like, we've been here, we've done it. So he's just talking about. I don't know if you count it as PR, but he's just talking because he wanted to talk to the media.
yeah, and I don't. And if anybody can find the full interview with a link, sharing it, that would be much appreciated, because I think it would just be good to be able to see the entirety of it and not just clips, for sure.
Yeah. Is Nketiah a star? Let's not be silly now. Let's not be silly.
I think he has star potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say what I'm thinking. But yeah. Cody saying Parish should open his mouth, gloating about our star player. Just brings more attention to get Eze out. Does that mean Parish is ready to move on? It's surely more important to re-sign him, right? I don't think so. I don't personally. I don't come to that conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, plus his contract right now doesn't run out until you be 29. So
yeah. Twisted saying, what do you think is Parish's exit plan? I've always had this theory. We'll see if it happens or not.
Build the stands and walking off into the sunset.
Yeah, I think the new stand probably holds a big part to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think if Parish walks out, Harris and Blitz will probably go with him as well.
Yep.
I think they'll both exit together. I don't know. That's my conspiracy, right? It's not a fact, but that's what I thought for a few years now, ever since this new stadium plan has been the expansion has been mentioned. Mitch saying, did you hear about the recap on the Texas Plus Everton situation on the Athletic Plus? No, and the Athletic FC podcast?
I haven't heard about that yet.
I haven't heard about it. I'm going to catch up on everything.
Yeah, I don't have the Athletic.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure.
Patrick did send it in our chat, but I haven't had the time to read about it. I think he sent the article. Harry's saying, what's your opinion on holding on following Palace on IG and removing all his Palace posts? I don't know what we've done to him, but
I don't think it's what we've done to him. I think he's on his way out.
Yeah, but then why would you do that? We've had players that leave, that leave or that have left the club, and they still follow Palace. They don't
because he may not be happy about what's going on. I mean, he may not be happy at the fact that he's not a part of the first team setup. He might not be happy the fact that we brought in 3 center backs in this window. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so why don't we? Well, I guess he's going to be earning money at Palace, but why don't we just terminate his release clause?
And that's what I'm saying. I think he's on his way out. I think we're going to end up terminating his contract. I don't. I mean, I'd be surprised. I mean, he's 6th or 7th choice. Like, he's like the 7th or 8th choice at this point. It's like, nah, man. I think he's going to end up getting cut loose and going to MLS or something. Like, being honest, I wouldn't be surprised to see him over here in America soon.
Yeah, I think Holding was pissed about us being in 2 center backs.
And if you think about it, we brought in 3. We brought in Riyadh first, ahead of him. We've brought in Chalobah, and we brought in Lacroix, all 3 ahead of him, along with Mark Gahey, Chris Richards. They're playing Nathaniel Klein and Joe Ward ahead of him. That's
hold up. Let's stop there. Because Chalobah wasn't mentioned. Before the Norwich game. So why didn't Holding, if that was the case, then why didn't Holding feature in that game? So I don't think it's that.
No, what I'm saying is what I'm saying is he made the bench for the Norwich game, right?
Did he? Can't remember.
So that's what I'm saying. If he didn't make the bench, that means he wasn't even high enough in the pecking order to make it then. But now you're bringing in guys like.
I think that shows the problem's been there from before that.
Exactly. So, but what I'm saying
didn't
is,
make the bench exactly.
Okay, but then since not making the bench, then they've brought in 2 more center backs that you know are going to be playing in front of him.
Yeah,
He's the eighth choice.
Yeah, okay, but that point about he might be upset because we're bringing in Chalobah, 2 centre backs. Well, that wasn't the case when he wasn't even featuring then. When's the last time Rob Holding's made the bench? Has he made the bench for any Premier League games?
He made the bench earlier this season. I think he made the bench for our first match of the season, I want to say.
So let me check I'm going to actually check the game against West Ham to see, because I don't think that 2 centre-back talk came after the Norwich game, and he wasn't even in the squad in that game. And yeah, he did make the bench against West Ham.
Yeah, because I mean, you're not happy then.
So it's between
like you're not
West
happy
Ham
then,
and it was between
and
West
then you bring
Ham
2 more
and
guys
the Norwich game. Something happened between them, but Glasner doesn't want to say it publicly. He doesn't want to say what's exactly gone wrong. But yeah, it must be serious. I noticed it in the Norwich game.
It goes from bad to toxic at that point.
Yeah, I noticed it in the Norwich game. I did notice it. I did think like
he was on the bench. Yeah, he was on the bench against West Ham. He wasn't in the squad for Brentford or Chelsea, but he was on the bench.
Yeah, he was on the bench against West Ham. I did mention it. I think in a match reaction or player ratings. Was it this one or was it the West? I can't remember, or the Norwich one. It was weird. Because those are the type of games you expect Rob Holding to be featuring in, starting at least, and let alone not being on the bench. So
I think they're going to end up. I mean, because here's the thing, he came in for a really low transfer amount. He's not getting paid crazy wages, so they'll probably end up just cutting him loose and terminating his contract.
Potentially. Let's see. Klein and Lerma ahead of him too. Well, Klein,
Lerma, Ward. That's 3 guys that actually don't play center back that are all
we shouldn't really be playing Klein at centre back. We technically shouldn't have to, because we have centre backs at the football club. But yeah,
but if you got a guy that's playing out of position and he's ahead of you, like
exactly, that not just a good sign for you. That just stinks.
Not a good sign.
By the way, people, before we do wrap up, if you haven't already done so, please hit the like button. We're near 60 likes. Let's try to end it with 60 likes before we go off air. As always, if you want more Palace content, yesterday we were on live Palace news with Patrick, talking about the latest news, as well as a loan roundup. So if you want an insight into the loan players so far, then yeah, you could check that out on yesterday's Palace news. So if you haven't already done that, and we could be potentially back tomorrow. Depends if there's anything to talk about. Of course, we're going to be here covering it, and then next week things get back to normal with the match previews, the reactions, etc. So yeah, that should be exciting. With the QPR game after the Leicester game and this and that. So yeah. Anyways, we're gonna wrap it up here. If you have enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, and also let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below if you just joined us now, and I'll try to reply to as much as possible. But until then, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.